all the haters last night, their storyline was that you were moving around a lot. Just
Boxing?
I know, I just don't get it.
I'm a little disappointed, but I also know how good he is.
How could he take it easy? The whole world is watching. There's not a chance he's going to make it look like this guy can box with him.
Can you imagine if Jake?
A significant difference. And ultimately, he did what he had to do to survive. He tried to sneak in some big shots, but in the end, the better boxer was going to systematically break him down, and that's what he did, and he got the victory. So I left that show on Friday thinking, this feels like a win for everyone involved.
Jake Paul's name has unexpectedly surfaced in legal discussions once again, after reports emerged that he issued an apology in court while addressing the fallout from his devastating loss to Anthony Joshua. The moment reportedly caught Joe Rogan off guard, as rumors began circulating that Jake was considering legal action against Joshua following the knockout. According to these claims, Jake allegedly believed that certain expectations inside the ring were not met. Rogan reacted bluntly, dismissing the idea that Joshua would ever take it easy, emphasizing that a world champion's duty is to fight with full intensity. In his view, blaming Joshua for doing exactly what elite fighters are trained to do sounded completely unrealistic.
He's like very underrated, but he's a 2-time heavyweight world champion. He's like one of the fucking scariest guys in the division. Lightning fast punches. 245 fucking pounds. He's huge. He's way bigger. Way more skilled.
He's like a foot taller. What's the height?
As the court apology drew attention, further details began surfacing about what Jake Paul says he underestimated going into the Anthony Joshua fight. Much of the discussion now centers on the massive size and strength difference between the two men. Sources close to the situation claim Jake expected a different rhythm and level of engagement in the ring, but Joshua's raw power quickly shattered those expectations. Within boxing circles, the idea of pursuing legal claims has been largely dismissed, with many pointing out that the physical mismatch was obvious long before the opening bell. Days after the knockout, reports confirmed the seriousness of the damage Jake sustained. He reportedly suffered a broken jaw that required surgery, resulting in 4 titanium plates and 8 screws being installed. Amid the chaos, Jake's manager and MVP co-founder, Nakisa Badarian, revealed that defamation lawsuits are being prepared against individuals spreading claims that the fight was rigged, scripted, or governed by a hidden agreement that Joshua allegedly ignored. Ariel Helwani later stepped in with a calmer assessment, explaining that despite the explosive headlines and online theories, the event unfolded professionally. He stressed that there were no serious issues during the bout and that both fighters approached the contest with safety and structure in mind. From Helwani's perspective, the fight may have generated controversy, but operationally, it was handled exactly as a high-level boxing event should be.
Paul's filing a lawsuit and will be taking legal actions days after getting knocked out by Anthony Joshua. So Jake Paul, who suffered a broken jaw after fighting AJ, has had enough of people questioning his legitimacy. JP's manager, Nakisa Badarian, who's also the MVP co-founder, revealed that they're cracking down and will be suing a number of people for false claims, aka defamation. Folks, claims of Paul and Joshua having an agreement that Anthony Joshua disregarded that eventually led to Jake Paul getting knocked out have been circulating online, henceforth the reason for suing these people who keep on saying that JP's fights are rigged, scripted, or fake. As for Jake Paul himself, well, he recently spoke to his brother Logan and confirmed that 4 titanium plates are in place due to his injuries.
Beyond the physical punishment and courtroom narratives, the financial consequences of the fight have also come into focus. Reports indicate that Anthony Joshua walked away with a significantly reduced purse after taxes, leaving him with approximately $43 million. The figure highlights a lesser discussed reality of elite boxing. While the money is enormous, so are the deductions. Even at the highest level, fighters face massive financial obligations once the final check is cut.
Boxing is on the biggest platform in the world, Netflix, ignoring the fact that Jake took on the biggest challenge he could possibly take on short notice. After Tank falls through, he goes and he's like, where's Francis? Okay, I'll go for the guy who beat Francis. I'll go for AJ. Ignoring the fact that, you know, I think some people's stock were elevated on the undercard. Some of the fights on the undercard were really, really great. And ultimately, like, there isn't that much to be upset about. There isn't that much to be mad about. Netflix being involved in boxing is great. Jake stepping up and taking Anthony's best shots were great. I don't think Anthony looked bad at all. There were times where I felt like he was headhunting. There were times where I felt like he was like trying to knock him out because I think he wanted to get rid of him. But you have to understand, when you have a guy who's running as much as he did and take shots at him or not for the game plan, that was his best way of surviving. It's like trying to chase a wet duck. You have to get him. And I think Anthony did actually a good job of pinning him into the corner sometimes, cutting off the ring, but it's hard to get a guy who's moving so much, who's clinching you, who's trying to do the antics that he was doing. That was the best chance for Jake to survive and then hope that he could crack him. He got tired, the ring was big. It was 22 by 22 as opposed to 20 by 20. There was a significant difference. And ultimately, he did what he had to do to survive. He tried to sneak in some big shots, but in the end, the better boxer was going to systematically break him down, and that's what he did, and he got the victory. So I left that show on Friday thinking, this feels like a win for everyone involved. This feels like a win for Netflix, a win for MVP, a win for Eddie and AJ and Matchroom. That's their guy. A win for Jake, and then a win for all the other fighters. I actually thought, in a way, it was the best of all the Netflix cards so far, as far as the 3 MVP cards. People were a little disappointed with Taylor Serrano and the main event and the lack of action. People had their say about, Jake and Tyson and the streaming issues and whatnot. This was one that I felt like it was like, if you are looking at it, with a clear mind, clear conscience, no bias, check. That was my view. Now let me ask the team, what did you guys think? Rick, I'll start with you. I've not asked a single one of you what you thought. Rick and GC were in attendance. You guys were watching it. Didn't see you guys, by the way. I saw my mom and sister. I was looking for you guys. Couldn't see you. Was hoping for a wave. Was hoping for a little, how are you? Didn't see you guys. What did you think?
I think everybody did their part. I think you kind of touched on the fact that it seemed like everybody involved won. I don't know if I say that. I think you could kind of debate individuals, but I think everybody did their part. And for that, I mean, for the longest time we've been hearing, and the outcry has been, Jake Paul doesn't take real fights. We have to see Jake Paul in a real fight. That's the only thing that I care about. He doesn't take real fights. He only fights old people. He only fights this. He only fights that. He delivered. He put his nuts on the table, and he said, I'm going to take a real fight. Not only am I going to take a real fight, I'm going to fight a former heavyweight champion with knockout power who just dispatched of Francis Ngannou 2 fights ago in a way that was quite devastating. I'm going to go in against that guy. So to me, Jake Paul held up his side of the equation. I kind of view these I didn't have high expectations in terms of the boxing product. I think of this like the way that some people used to say, like, I read Playboy for the articles. I don't watch Jake Paul fights for boxing. I watch Jake Paul fights for spectacle. Like, if you came in thinking that this was going to be a display of the greatest boxing you've ever seen.
Eddie Hearn later addressed the growing speculation by reinforcing one central point. The Anthony Joshua versus Jake Paul fight was completely legitimate. He explained that Jake, fully aware of the danger he was facing against a proven world champion, adopted a survival-based approach. Rather than attempting to dominate exchanges, Jake relied on movement, clinching, and distance control to manage risk. According to Hearn, this wasn't cowardice, it was calculated self-preservation against an opponent operating on an entirely different level.
Anthony Joshua lost half of his earnings for the fight with Jake Paul because he's a UK resident and the fight was in USA. He won the fight with Jake Paul, but USA and UK won him. For that fight, he's supposed to get $93 million. 37% of it went to taxes in USA, almost $35 million. Also around $15 million a tax to UK because the fight was not in the country. And if the fight was in UK, he would pay 3 times more tax. So from $93 million, he ended up earning only $43 million. This is weird, guys. If the fight was in Dubai, he would get all 93 million. Here, the government supports you to make money, not to lose money. Anthony Joshua and all the other sports guys, contact me and I will help you to move and make money in Dubai.
Not everyone, however, was impressed by how the fight unfolded. Simon Jordan offered a sharp critique of Anthony Joshua, arguing that a fighter of his stature should have ended the contest far sooner. While acknowledging Joshua's clear control and superior skill set, Jordan questioned why the knockout didn't come earlier. In his view, elite champions are judged not just on winning, but on how decisively they capitalize when dominance is obvious. Ultimately, Joshua left no doubt. He dropped Jake Paul twice in the 5th round before delivering the finishing blow in the 6th. ending the fight in emphatic fashion.
Well, Jake was running and Jake was but listen, I mean, at the end of the day, Jake had one job, and that was to try and survive. I mean, he was never ever going to win the fight, ever. And if you would have said to me, do I think he'll go 6 rounds? I would have said absolutely not. I mean, I felt that it would take AJ a couple of rounds to get hold of him, because I knew Jake can move a bit and he'd be moving off the back foot and he'd be holding. But it was the way that he did it, I think, was actually quite impressive. Like, not that particular part, but the way that he would, the way that he was strong in the clinch. He wouldn't let AJ get his shots off in the clinch. He made him miss a few times. And obviously AJ's been out of the ring for a while. But to be honest, I think the most fascinating thing of the whole night in terms of the fight was how he didn't get flatlined by that right hand. I mean, I said going into the fight, he's probably going to take AJ a few rounds to get hold of him. And I also said, as soon as he lands clean, the fight's over, right? He landed a few before, but the first that he landed really clean was the final shot. But, he never flatlined Jake. I mean, he did break his jaw in 2 places, which is a disaster. But there are a lot of heavyweights that would have been out cold from that right hand. I mean, one of them was Francis Ngannou in a pretty similar shot, really. Do you know what I mean? So I actually give Jake unbelievable credit for doing it in the first place, but his performance as well. I mean, I stand by the fact that I think he's just a decent cruiserweight, but like, he did go in with Anthony Joshua, and look, the world is full of criticism and opinions and negativity. Who else is doing what he's doing at what is he, late 20s? I mean, quite phenomenal. I mean, the guy's a complete madman. I'm watching him come out to that ring walk, and he's just a...
As rumors of scripting and prearranged outcomes continued to spread online, analysts were quick to shut them down. Experts argue that the idea of a scripted fight involving a heavyweight world champion like Anthony Joshua made little sense. With his reputation, legacy, and immense pressure always present, Joshua had every reason to perform professionally. The consensus remains that the fight simply exposed the natural gap between a seasoned champion and a developing boxer stepping into dangerous territory.
And clinging to AJ's legs. At one point, the referee had warned the pair of them. The fans didn't pay to watch this crap. Joshua finally imposed himself by knocking down Paul twice in the 5th round, delivered the knockout blow, boom, in the 6th, and broke his jaw reportedly in 2 places. After the fight, Gareth A. Davis caught up with Joshua.
People will criticise you for going 6 rounds with Jake Paul. How do you feel about that?
I deserve it.
Why? Come on.
Because, we're elite fighters. So I put myself in the shoes of a coach. If I was coaching Anthony Joshua and he went 6 rounds with Jake Paul, I would get him back in the gym tomorrow, give him a bit of a beating, and we're getting straight back to work, because I'll be like, how are you letting this kid take you 6 rounds? Are you crazy? But I can't go back in time.
Well, they've come out of it a whole lot richer. Reportedly £165 million richer between the two of them, with Jake Paul earning more than Joshua. That apart, Spencer, 6 rounds to get Paul out of there. Reputationally, how does it leave AJ?
Well, thankfully it didn't go to points, because I think that would have been a disaster for Anthony Joshua. I think that he needed to get the job done inside the distance, and he done it. Look, he could have done it at any given point. I think that he could have cut the ring off whenever he wanted to and got Jake Paul out of there. He took his time on that. He allowed Jake Paul to run around like a rabbit and throw the occasional shot from time to time. And I think he only landed 1 clean punch, didn't he, Anthony Joshua? And that was the one that broke his jaw in 2 places.
But, I mean, you said, did you not, to us in this very studio the other day, he's got to get him out of there in round 1.
I did.
Otherwise, what are we seeing?
Exactly that. And I think what we saw there was a little bit of entertainment. And that was pretty much it, but not entertainment that many people enjoyed, if I'm honest. I think that people wanted to see a demolition job.
Chris Algieri and Paulie Malignaggi approached the fight from a technical standpoint, breaking down Jake Paul's performance inside the ring. While acknowledging Jake's athleticism and willingness to compete, they highlighted major flaws in his fundamentals, particularly footwork, defensive awareness, and ring IQ. They emphasized that speed and movement alone cannot replace technical education, and without significant development, Jake will continue to struggle when facing elite-level opponents.
I do not think that this fight was rigged. I think what happened was that, number one, Anthony Joshua had a lot to lose. If he got reckless and he got caught and KO'd in the early rounds, that would have been the most embarrassing upset in all of boxing history. Now, it's easy to sit on a couch and watch him and say, well, he still should have done it. But no, you're going to be more defensive, you're going to get a read, and you're going to try and understand how the guy's moving. Now, this is where I could see why it was difficult in the early rounds for Anthony Joshua. Jake Paul did not fight like a boxer. Jake Paul did stuff that, in my opinion, should have gotten him to lose a point or some kind of warning. He was doing double leg takedowns the entire fight. He wasn't throwing punches, he was running and circling, and then the second Anthony Joshua got close to him, he would shoot in on him with a double leg. Okay, now, sure, that works for an MMA fight. It was a nice example of how you can get by a boxer's punches numerous times. It also exhausted him. He must have shot in at least, no joke, 30 or 35 times in that fight, which is just absurd. And again, I think that's what threw off the pacing of the fight and made Anthony Joshua look a little bit awkward in the early rounds because he was keeping distance. He didn't want to get caught with that overhand right. And then as he stepped in, every time he closed the gap, Jake Paul would just shoot in and get into tight range, like clinch range. And very good strategy for self-defense, by the way. From a self-defense perspective, what we can learn from Jake Paul is even if you're fighting a guy who's massive compared to you, who is a world-class boxer and mega athlete, that it's very hard to KO you if you just keep shooting in on them when you're getting into range. If you just, the second you're in punching range, you shoot in. It's a strategy that's worked in MMA. Now we see it worked against a
True Geordie echoed similar sentiments, explaining that Anthony Joshua appeared calm throughout the fight because he understood exactly how the night would end. Jake Paul's movement allowed him to survive early, but once exchanges became unavoidable, the technical and experiential gap became impossible to hide. According to True Geordie, the result wasn't shocking, it was inevitable from the moment the matchup was announced.
Knew what was going to happen before the fight even took place. That's why he was so calm. And that's probably why in the first few rounds when Jake Paul's buzzing around like a fucking little bee, this is going to slow down. I'm going to get to you. And I said beforehand, the fitness, you know, AJ is going to be fitter than you, you know, because normally when you're the smaller guy, you might have technique or speed or fitness. AJ is going to have it all. And once Jake stopped running, it was obvious. Like AJ was actually fitter than him as well because he could keep that pressure up for longer. And it's funny because depending who people like after this, the narrative is going to be completely different. For example, Jake Paul's promoter said it wasn't a skill thing, it was a size thing. And it's like, well, no, like once Jake Paul actually was forced to fight, the skills were worlds apart. But he did well to land a couple of punches. Like, I'm not going to take that away from him, and I think he should be fucking, you know, proud of that he did land on AJ. He might have even won a round. That's something he could fucking take to the fucking grave. But let's not kid ourselves. If Jake Paul had have stood in front of Anthony Joshua